Hello. I am looking at the sky right now. Gonna put a little bit of oil on because it's been an interesting day so far. Actually, hang on 1 second. Because my nose started running. Lots of pollen. Anyway, I wanted to make sure I came on here in time. But like I said, I'm going to put a little bit of this on, and I have going to cover in, I'm going to give it a couple of minutes here. I'm going to jump into aromatherapy and healthcare. I have a lot of information that I want to go through. I'm going to break it down for you. I'll tell you right now. I'm going to talk about adverse drug events. We're going to talk about actually what essential oils actually are. And I'm excited on that one because it's not a common way of viewing oils. And then we're going to jump into the science, as well as how to apply these to healthcare. So I want to thank you for joining me today. And my name is Tammy Davis. I'm going to actually start off before I jump into adverse drug effects. I have had an interesting 90 minutes. Just different things going on. So what you're seeing me do right now is I'm actually putting some galbanum on. I'm putting it on the brainstem, on the back of my neck, and I can smell it. And the reason for I'm doing it this way is because, number one, the brainstem, or it's actually the reticular activating system, and innervates the entire brain. So it helps get us really it helps to regulate that system because it's primarily working with the autonomic nervous system. So I put it there, but also I can smell it, like I said. And the important piece to that is those are the two systems, the olfactory system and the reticular activating system are the only two systems in the brain that will activate the entire brain. So those are the two ways that we can innervate the entire brain, just by smelling and by placing it back here on the brainstem. Because of the way it's wired, it infuses the brain and helps the system to regulate itself. And like I said, after the last hour and a half that I've had, a girl can use all the help she can get. Anyway, I want to thank you again for joining this discussion on aromatherapy in healthcare. And the things that I want to cover today are adverse drug effects, and I'm going to go into what those are. I'm going to talk about oils. What are essential oils? The science behind the oils, and how we're going to apply these to healthcare, and why. More importantly, why? How is important too, but why? So if you have any questions, by all means, please feel free to put it in the chat. You're always welcome to message me after this if anything comes up or it strikes you. But the thing that I want to talk about right now, like I said, is the adverse drug effects. And what that means is we have, and how this even applies to oils. Currently, the statistics are 82% of the United States population, adult population, is currently taking at least one medication for longer than 30 days. 29% of the adult population is taking 5 or more. And again, the reason why I'm even going into or diving into adverse drug effects is because we're seeing a rise in the potential for that happening. They're equating this to the combination of medications. And I'm not going to say that I haven't seen where certain medications should not have been combined. And that's part of what I provide, is we kind of cross-check things for people because those are potential interactions. But my assertion here, for the sake of this program and what I'm actually going to be talking about in June, when I speak at a pharmacy convention, and what I'm submitted, actually, this is right out of the article that I'm writing for a pharmacology journal, is that what my assertion is that oils, in my case, should also be considered, because the essential oil industry is a very it's on the rise. It's increasing. We're talking about it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. That's the essential oil industry, and they're currently looking at using oils, obviously, for bath and body. They're also currently looking to use oils in foods, because it has been approved by the FDA, or chemicals within the oils have been approved as flavorings. So there's a whole number of reasons why this industry is growing rapidly, and there are more and more people that are looking for alternatives besides just medications, and it's understandable. Now, the question that we have, number one, is about the quality of the oils, and number two, it's what is the safety? That's my biggest concern, is what is the safety? And well, we're going to learn more about that as we get into this. But as I said, my assertion is the fact that a lot of adverse drug events could very well be related to the combination of oils and medications, because as I've been talking about with a number of pharmacists, there's a rise in people wanting to use what they refer to as non-drug solutions. So they're looking for more natural remedies. And oftentimes we don't talk to our doctors about it. And my own personal experience is the doctors, just when they talk about oils, they're like, oh yeah, there's nothing to consider here. They're not that big of a deal. And while I can wrap my head around the fact that they doubt their efficacy, there is the part that goes, well, I mean, like I said, I do understand, because we have, the way I want to say this is, we have a lot of oils on the market that are not 100% pure. They're just not genuine. They may be adulterated, and an adulterated oil does not mean that they're laced with chemicals. It can mean that. Oftentimes, and I'll kind of give you a little bit of scenario right now about how adulteration happens, just for the sake of information, and that is, frequently producers of oils, when they go out into the fields, the scent of an oil matters when it comes to selling, because they recognize that one of the ways that they can influence purchases is the aroma. That's why when you go into a store, you have testers that you can smell. And if an oil smells differently than it did the last time you inhaled it, it's going to register, it's going to somehow or another tell you there's something wrong with it. The reason why the scent of an oil changes is because of the growing season. The growing season, depending on what is actually happening in the field when it comes to light, water, nutrition, and so forth, what happens, just in general, it'll alter the scent. And we're going to find out more about that here in a minute when I go into what essential oils actually are. And yet, because we recognize the variations in the fragrance, they will go out and spray the fields with esters. They're called esters. They're basically chemicals that will fix. So it's like in perfumery. And if you're not familiar with my background, I actually got started with oils 1990. 1990s when I started really working with oils. And I don't know why I paused on that for just a moment, but the thing is that I think it's because we were talking about, because I mentioned perfumery, and that's how I got started. I got started with a professional nose. I actually met her in a business class. I was involved in pharmacology and met her in a business class, and we decided we wanted to start a natural fragrance company together, because she was one of 7 professional noses in the world and was wanting to get away from working with chemicals. That was my introduction to essential oils. Never did I see it unfolding the way it has. However, as learning perfumery, what they will do is they will fix scent with certain chemicals, and they'll do that in the field. That is one way of being adulterated. Another way of adulterating them is actually to mix. Sometimes they'll mix them together, because in the instance of lavender, we have 9 different types of lavender. Some are less expensive to produce, and in order to keep the cost at a reasonable amount to where it entices the consumer. They'll mix a more expensive lavender with a less expensive lavender, again, to fix the price and make it more attractive that way. And that's an adulteration as well. So there's a number of variations, and this is why I say I do understand why medical professionals go, they're not that big of a deal, because we don't know what we're getting. At the same time, they've been classified as bath, body, and flavoring. And I have written an article on that. If you want to read more about that, let me know. But in this case, what I'm saying is no matter how genuine an oil is, it is still a chemical. They are made up of compounds that create whatever is in that bottle. And the more pure or genuine that it is, the more it can really directly affect the medication a person takes. So when we look at 82% of Americans taking at least one, like I said, the adverse drug events cause approximately $1.3 million. That's 350,000 hospitalizations a year. That's a 1.3 million emergency visits. I read that wrong. $3.5 billion is spent on medical costs related to adverse drug events. And the CDC is seeing this grow, and due to the development of more and more medications, and because now we're also using oils, medications. So medication may have been developed for one purpose and then it's being used for something else. So this is another reason why, and unfortunately, because of the health profession the way it is right now, and especially even in pharmacies, it's next to impossible for everyone to be able to cross-check medications. But there again, I'm emphasizing the fact that, and we're going to hear why oils would want to be considered in this, because that is what an essential oil is. An essential oil is actually, the compounds in an oil are what are being studied in pharmacology. This is what science is actually studying, is what's in these bottles. They're the chemicals in these bottles, because I'm always being asked, where's the science? Where's the science to the essential oils? Well, the science is in the chemicals that are in the essential oil. There's tremendous amount of research on their chemicals. This is a bottle of galbanum. I use this specifically because it's very high in pinene. Pinene is known to help the brain regulate acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is a primary neurotransmitter that is excitatory when the stress response has been activated. And then the brain has the ability to convert that to a more real inhibitory neurotransmitter, which allows us to be able to relax and our muscles to become more fluid. I wish I could remember the number. What I want to say this is that pinene is the most prominent. It is found basically throughout all the oils. Every oil, if not all of them do, but most of them do actually contain pinene. It's called pinene because it was originally discovered in the pine trees. But that's why when you go outside, one of the reasons why when you spend time in nature, you can begin to find this relaxed sense of being, because they are releasing pinenes, and the pinene helps your brain to regulate itself. So there is actually this, for every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. Now, the thing is with the chemical constituents, and this is what essential oils actually are, is that they are the plant's response to stress. This is bottled oxidative stress. That's what that is. That's the best way I know how to describe it. We can go into all of the, I've heard people talk about it being like like hormones. I've heard people refer to them being like hormones. There may be that, and at the same time, it's more along the lines of the way I would describe it. It's just oxidative stress. Just like you produce oxidative stress, I produce oxidative stress like I did before coming on here. And that oil really makes a difference for me. All I have to do is waft it. I mean, that's all I have to do. is get that aroma, and I can feel this sense of just, okay, all's good. And as I said, when it comes to oils, there's hundreds of oils, and that is the most prominent oil found throughout the essential oil industry. The next most prominent one is called limonene. Limonene is found, I can tell you, in 211 oils. So I had an Amish woman once, and this is really funny, tell me, she said that, because we were talking about, I was talking about specifically about limonene, and she says, well, I think I have all the oils. I said, if you have 211 oils on your wall, I go, I'm coming to your house. So, but like I said, alpha pinene, and that is one of the reasons why we cannot be going, well, this oil is good for, how do I want to say this? We cannot just go, all these different oils are good, have these same properties. That's what I was trying to say. Because so many have pinene, yeah, it does have a very strong influence on the autonomic nervous system, without question. The challenge that we face with essential oils is that although they do contain pinene, some of them contain compounds that are unique to that plant. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, like for instance, like black pepper has pinene in it, but it has other ones that are unique to that plant, which make, and this is what I've really devoted like the last 15 or so years to, is really getting to know the oils individually as opposed to just having these generalized ideas of properties. And there again, though, like I said, an essential oil really is the oxidative stress. And when it comes to stressors, and I want to emphasize the fact that a stressor doesn't necessarily mean bad. A stressor is something that happens. It could be wind. I'm watching the wind blow right now. It could be wind. It could be drought. It could be just a regular day, because you've got light, the sun rises and then the sun sets, and maybe you have a gray day. So the variations in the environment are all factors, they're all kinds of stressors. And so what they do, it's the way the plant synergizes with the environment. This is important to remember, because what constitutes a plant's DNA, and again, as I mentioned, these compounds are being studied in science to understand how individually, in this case pinene, influences the system. The reason I know it affects the autonomic nervous system and the profound impact it has on the system overall is because of the science. And so we're looking at how they're affecting the epigenetic, the genes, the cell receptors, and various detox processes in the system, because what they're doing is they're creating medications to replicate these actions. Now, the significance to that is the organic chemistry is a field, and the only reason it's called organic chemistry is because initially back in the 19th century, they were playing in labs, a chemical lab. They took two inorganic compounds, combined them, and created urea, which is something you produce. But because they took two inorganic compounds and were able to manufacture an organic compound, we have the development of organic chemistry. It does not mean that the organic compounds that we see listed as medications are in fact organic chemicals. It simply means they replicate the organic compound. And the reason they know that they can do this is because what distinguishes the difference between the plant outside or the fur baby sitting at your feet or your brother or sister, what differentiates any one of us is simply the way the protein is placed on the DNA. And I shouldn't say your brother or sister, but actually I should say, let me reclassify that and go, the difference between a plant and a human is the way the proteins are placed in the DNA strand. That's it. That's the biggest distinction. That's the reason why we can study plants, we can study the stressors in plants, we can identify what happens in the the plant's system in response to these stressors, and we're able to take a look at that and notice what's going on inside the body. So for every action that's happening to the plant, that equal and opposite reaction is that their oxidative stress offsets our oxidative stress. That is one big reason why we want to make sure we include them, because they're not just bath, body, and flavoring. They have, when they're genuine and pure, they have real, true value in accentuating healthcare. It does not mean it has to take the place of healthcare. Some cases it does. In some cases it doesn't. It's not an either or. It's not one is better than the other. But I will say that in certain situations, we don't have to go to the extreme that we're going with in healthcare. We can at least start with something like an oil to see how the body responds, to see how the individual responds, and if more is warranted, then maybe going that direction. But as far as the science is concerned when it comes to an oil, as I said, it's in the individual constituents and the synergy of those constituents. And that's the one thing science consistently will identify in every single research paper. No matter what study they're doing, they will always say that they cannot replicate the synergy of what's actually found naturally in oils or in plants. So they're having a really tough time with that. And this, again, would be another reason why we would want to add oils to our healthcare programs, because they assist with the synergy within the system. Because the medication is very specific in the way it affects the body. So in some cases, it may be directly affecting acetylcholine. In other cases, it might be serotonin, like an antidepressant. In some cases, it's dopamine, which could be for movement, or it could be an antidepressant. So it varies. And then sometimes they will affect different, maybe multiple chemicals, but it's always very specific in their actions, kind of like a birth control pill. So when you do something like that, what happens is, there's a term in science called positive feedback. So it's kind of like you're trying to create an outcome. That is what medication does. It goes to create an outcome. What homeostasis is a reversal of that, and actually having the negative feedback. So when you have the negative, I don't know why that does that. When you have the negative feedback, now it causes the body it gives the body a break so that it can begin to reset itself. This is where we produce oxidative stress, and then the oxidative stress is relieved, and the body has the ability to self-regulate, produce anti-inflammatory hormones when necessary, as well as produce inflammatory hormones when necessary, because a stressor is not a bad thing. It is a means of communication from the external environment. Sometimes and oftentimes it's your emotions, actually. And when that happens, you want to be able to, number one, self-regulate. And as I put on a blog post this morning, myself, for me, self-regulation was something that it was I tried. I was a control freak. I wanted to control myself, and yet I just couldn't get it. I just could not get it. And these, the oils actually made a big difference for me, being able to bear witness to the way I operate, to the way I think, to the way I perceive information. It gave me a moment to consider something else. So it really kind of helped open up a perspective of the world that I had become so rigid in my thinking that is one of the reasons why I stand here today and I have such a conviction about oils after all these years, is because I've noticed a progression in myself. And I'm very adamant about including it, but at the same time, we've got to make sure that we understand that if you have a medication that has a very specific action in the body, the last thing you want to, like for instance, if somebody was using, the medication's called, or the type of medication is called an cholinergic. That's a tongue twister. But what that means is it is helping, it's what it's doing is it's controlling the acetylcholine to help you help relax the muscles. You wouldn't want to use something like this because it's, I mean, this is, I'm trying to think of the percentage of pinene in this oil is well close to 70% in that oil. You would not want to combine, even though your books and websites will tell you that galbanum is safe to use. Because it is safe to use doesn't mean that we can be mixing it with medications like anticholinergics, because it'll be having the same influence. So therein lies your adverse drug events. And because if it's going to go and plug into a receptor, if you will, and you've got a medication doing the same thing, the body's going to pick this up first because there's a synergistic value to it. Hello, Brenda. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here. So you're going to have that. You're going to have that. It's going to run. It's basically going to plug in first, and then what that does is it prolongs the medication in the system. So, medication is designed to be metabolized and eliminated in a certain amount of time. And if you combine it with an oil that does the same thing, now you've prolonged the amount of time the medication stays in the body. If you use an oil that is metabolized by the body in a similar manner as the medication, you've now going to create another type of interaction. And how the body interacts and how it reacts is going to be unique to the individual, because no two epigenomes are operating in the same way. That is the one thing that makes us very, very different. Despite the similarities that we have, our epigenomes are unique. And it's very difficult to say how one person, like I said, is going to have what kind of reaction. So my suggestion, strong suggestion, is number one, to include oils because they do help offset the positive feedback that the medications are creating. So the positive feedback is looking for an outcome. And the oils create that negative feedback, which now allows the body to go, okay, I can take a break. And it supports the digestive system, because long-term use of medications is going to disrupt your digestion. I had a lady call me for her husband not too long ago, actually just a few days ago, who's developing psoriasis on his face. She knows how I work, and her first words out of her mouth were, he doesn't have any digestive problems. And I beg to differ. If he's got psoriasis on his face, there's something going on in the digestive system. And so one of my aims is always to support the digestive system, regardless, because if there's some kind of symptom, then there's some inflammation happening, which means the digestive system is not able to process the macronutrients as efficiently. And that's the one thing we want to get back on track, so that the body can now resume that anti-inflammatory production. And this is another reason why, if you use oils in that manner when you're taking a medication to support digestion, making sure that they don't conflict with the way the medication affects the system, as well as meaning how it's metabolized or how it's signaling the cells. When you do it that way, now you are creating, that to me is the holistic way of functional medicine, because now you're creating better function systemically. And again, it's understanding the fact that the science is in the compounds. It's not in the properties that are frequently published online. We want to make sure that we understand how that, I have a tickle, how that oil is going to, how it's going to affect the individual system, how it's going to interact with that medication, if it is, and if it's not, then you're golden as far as getting to use it. So as I said, this is what's going into a pharmacology journal. And it's actually a case study that I did, and I'm just looking at the individual that came to me was using 2 different blends, and along the lines of what I was just talking about, she was taking medications. She was taking medications for anxiety and chronic pain, and they were treating her for nerve pain and anxiety. Actually, pardon me. And then there was also muscle. She had a lot of muscular. She had spasms. That's what I was looking for. So at any rate, one of the blends and this is another reason why pre-made commercial blends are not necessarily the best aim to go for, because they're made with the idea that they're safe. They're based on the idea that they are labeled bath, body, and food. And again, because the epigenome is unique, I'm just gathering my thoughts, because the epigenome is unique, we don't want to, I'm going to say it this way, I do not agree with making a blend that is good for everyone. It's just, I don't agree. I don't see how you can do that, given the number of the hundreds of people that I've supported, whether they're taking medications or not. I'm going to give the example of not being on medication. Even if someone comes to me and they're not taking medication, like in the case of this gentleman, psoriasis, just a few days earlier, a teenage girl had psoriasis on her scalp. But what's interesting about the teenage girl is she had a lot of menstrual issues. He doesn't have menstrual issues. He's got other things going on. He may not have digestive issues, but he's got some other things going on, like with sleep and so forth. So there's different things happening within the system. So using oils for psoriasis for one person doesn't mean we're going to use the same oils for psoriasis for another. And that's even equally more important when we're talking about medications, because now there are certain oils you cannot use. And in the case of this particular client, she was using one blend that had two oils in it. There was actually 1, 2, 3. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There were 6 oils in it, but 2 of them were blue in color. And the blue coloring is a compound that makes it blue. It's called camulzine. And so there's a conflict there. Hey, Lynette. So there's a conflict there with the camulzine. And I broke this down for the doctors, for the pharmacists, because you've got the blue colorization actually conflicted with the same liver enzymes as the medications she was taking. So that automatically eliminates that blend altogether. But there again, this is where it's really interesting, because we're not just looking at liver metabolism. Now, this is what fascinates me. This is what I get out of bed. And as you can tell, I could talk all day long about this stuff, because this is how we figure out how to heal. This is how we figure out how to heal, because when we start working with a system like this, we are now actually aligning ourselves. I was telling someone earlier today, you're actually creating a connection between the logical brain and the consciousness. So the left side of your brain is logic, the right side of your brain is consciousness. And oftentimes those two, and if you want a better description of it too, or a different description of it, it's where you get creative. And I went through a real strong period in my life where I didn't think I was creative. I just I couldn't even see to be creative, let alone create. That's, I think, one of the reasons why I love oils, because I get creative with them. I can become really creative with the individual and help them figure out how to bridge that gap between logic, slowing down your thinking, like I said for myself, and now opening ourselves up to be able to create what we need individually. And that's the other beautiful thing about when we include oils in healthcare. They empower your ability to see more and understand more about what your system needs. And it now transforms your relationship, transforms your relationship with your health professionals, with the doctors and everybody else, because now you become a participant. You can become part of the treatment team. This is not to take the place of medication. I don't know how many times I want to continue to emphasize that. There are people who don't want to take medications, and that's okay. And there are people who want to take medications, and that's awesome, because now they're actually helping their system realign itself so that we can have a better understanding of our system, so that we can bear witness to what's going on, put voice to that, and begin to partner with our health professionals so that we get the best outcome. And it's not about controlling the body, it's about activating that healing energy. So although oils do have properties that relieve symptoms, don't disregard that, because they do. I've used them for joint pain. I've used them for IBS. I've used them for, I have paraneural cysts in my neck from some head trauma that I experienced as a child. I can use it to relieve the pain of that inflammation in my neck. I mean, I have used them when I broke my ankle and I couldn't get to the doctor for a week. So the pain, and I mean, I've used them for everything. So I've even used them to get through cancer treatment. So there's a way to integrate them. There's a way to use them independently of healthcare, and there's definitely a better way to use them to get the safest outcome and to allow the body to actually do what it's designed to do. So in the case of this individual, like I said, that one particular blend, that was a no-go, just simply because of the blue. But the other interesting aspect of this is the fact that it also contained one of the oils contains a chemical called bisabolol, and bisabolol has been discovered to actually regulate ion channels, and your ion channels are all your minerals. And interestingly enough, the one particular pain medication she was taking for nerve pain, had the same influence on the very same ion channels. Understanding this makes all the difference in the world in the way the medications affect the person. And what happened in this individual, and the reason why she was sent to me, was although she'd been being treated for anxiety and muscular and nerve pain, her anxiety was increasing. It was growing, and she wanted to try something natural, and thank goodness she decided to actually seek some assistance instead of just opening up a book or getting on a website and selecting something based on what we understand them to be like, for the sake of safety and combining with her medications. The other aspect to this was that to this blend is, and I have to emphasize this very distinctly for everyone, is that there's more than one lavender. There's more than one rosemary. In this case, there was whole leaf in this blend. There's more than one whole leaf. There's more than one frankincense. So unless you know specifically what oil has been used in a pre-made blend, you're better off not purchasing the pre-made blend and having one made specifically for you, because there are different types. There are different types of thyme. There are different types of chamomile, for that matter. I always like to talk about chamomile because every chamomile has a very different chemical profile. You've got one that's blue, you've got one that's not. So, and the reason why is because they have completely different chemicals in them. So we want to know what's in them. The second blend was along the same lines, but again, in this case, it was very, very high in limonene, and limonene is known to bind to serum albumin, and that is simply a protein in the body, in the blood, that helps to clear chemicals from the body. It is another way that the body is designed to eliminate unnecessary chemicals. And limonene is, number one, creates a lot of synergy. They've discovered that this is what it does in oils. It creates synergy within the oil, but it also binds. And if you're taking an SSRI, the SSRIs, antidepressant, actually bind to the very same proteins that the limonene does. And so it's another type of way of conflicting. So this would be another reason why you want to make sure that you don't use commercial blends. And number two, that we don't want to repeat. Like in this case, I'm just looking at the purposes. So in this case, the second blend was used for immune support. That is the purpose of this one. And antioxidant and immune support is what it was supposed to be for. It's very potent, has a lot of blood thinning properties to it. And in this case, it's very anti-anxiety. I'm just reading my notes here. So it's very anti-anxiety, and she's already taken anti-anxiety medication. So there again, you have what I would refer to as a duplication. You're duplicating the mechanism of action. You're repeating what the medication is already doing, and that is counterintuitive to actually helping someone get beyond and getting beyond whatever they're dealing with. And so I'm just, in this case, I wouldn't even recommend this blend for everyone, even if she wasn't taking medication, just because it contains carvacrol. I'm just looking at this, and carvacrol is a ketone. It's a phenol. Carvacrol is a phenol, and phenols are metabolized and eliminated on the very same pathway that metabolizes neurotransmitters. And the significance to that is if the person is, oftentimes this pathway is altered as a result of stress, and it slows down. And this isn't a defect. It slows down the way the body is breaking down the neurochemicals, because those neurochemicals are being used for protection in one way or another. And if we consume a lot of phenols, then whether it be in oils, and by consuming I mean just using, whether it's in your foods or in your oils, if you consume a lot of them, you're actually backing your body can't break them down. It doesn't make any difference if it's an oil or what. You're already struggling to break down histamine, so we see a rise in histamine intolerance. And if you start using a lot of blends or oils that are high in phenols, like carvacrol, which is found in your savory and your oregano, and thymol, which is found in thymes, now what you have is an elevation of phenols in the system, and you will create even more anxiety and create even a higher level of histamine. So that's another reason why this blend isn't suitable for everyone. In this particular woman's case, it was definitely not suitable for her. So we stopped her on all these two blends. We started on new blends for her, and she found not only peace of mind, she found an ability to feel comfortable talking with her doctors about what was going on, and ultimately started coming down. She was taking gabapentin, and she was able to stop the gabapentin. So yeah, there's definitely potential, but she stayed on her other medications, and this is again why, because we can support the system with regulating itself. I don't see essential oils as, I mean, they're definitely an adjunct, but I don't see them as an option. I see them as necessary, because we are looking at a time right now where people are wanting to heal, and they're wanting to use things like this. And how do we optimize their healing journey? How do we optimize their health right now so that they can feel better and become more confident in their body's ability? And that's why I say oils matter. And if we just learn how to integrate them in such a way that we can prevent adverse drug events. I mean, when you have $3.5 billion in medical costs a year, and just in the United States, more than 40% of costs related to non-hospital adverse drug events could be prevented. So are all adverse drug events related to medications? I don't think so. I think it's a result of this influx of wanting to use non-drug solutions like oils and not understanding how to do it, and the professionals questioning their validity or their efficacy, and they are very valid. They have a lot of benefit in the system. We just have to understand how to work them together. So that is what I have for you today. If you have any questions, let me know. If I can assist you, that's what I do. I help figure these things out. I make sure that everything you're doing works well together. I make sure to give you the oils, or make the oils for you, and then walk you through the changes that your body goes through, because your body is going to, that's the last thing I want to end on here. When you start using oils as part of a healthcare routine, whether you're taking medications or not, when you start using oils as part of your healthcare routine, the healing process is going to undo things. The thing that we want to remind ourselves of, our mindset currently is quiet the symptom and all is good. And my thing is that what we want to do is help with the symptom and support the system. And although there might be something that comes up, there could be a rash, there could be a headache, there could be all of a sudden you're like tired in the middle of the day, or you have a hard time sleeping at night, does not mean these things aren't working. It means your body is adapting, but we've got to learn how to work through it so that you become, again, confident in your body's ability to be better. And I've seen this happen in as little time as 30 days. So that's really what I do, is I'm helping walk people through 30 days of direct access with me. And we get you through this, and you now understand how to navigate your system's changes. But that's the reason why, is because we have a lot of people taking medications. I don't have a judgment about that. Medications are important. I've had to take medications. But how do we integrate something that is benefiting our healing as opposed to just managing the discomfort? It's now no longer about what can we teach our children? How do we want to see the rest of our life playing out? That is really what I'm coming from here, is can we break free from this disease management so that we can actually activate the healing energy within our system so that we can live a life that we desire, that we want to, whatever it is you want to do, but actually with vibrancy, with energy, with flexibility. I mean, this is, especially as we get older, I'm done with hearing that this is an age-related, or things are age-related. We can prevent age-related. We can just simply begin to live life, and live life to its fullest, feeling good in our skin, and eliminate the idea of age-related, and teach this to our kids. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and thank you very much for being here. And I welcome questions, and would love to know, let me know how I might be able to support you, because the whole idea here is, can we end age-related discussions? Can we end chronic pain management? Can we actually elevate the body's ability and live life as we were designed to live it, with a clear mind, a clear heart, and strong and vibrant, for the sake of delivering whatever it is that God has for you to deliver? Okay? So thank you again. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you. And I welcome your questions, and I'll see you soon.